Hi, welcome. Whether you're here for the first time or the 110th time, welcome. This is a come as you are congregation. That doesn't mean you can wear anything. It means you can be anything and you can think anything. Just to be with us is the whole idea. I'm also supposed to say that we would love to stay connected. So if you're a first-time visitor, please go to the back on your way out, not now, and give us some contact information so you can be in our web of knowledge. There is the thing that we say every week, and it's really good idea to really think about the words when you say them. Here at Namakwa UU, we foster a beloved community that celebrates diversity, strives for peace and justice, acts mindfully for the good of the planet, and inspires spiritual growth through a free and loving search for truth and meaning. We honor the ground we walk on and acknowledge this land as the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. We recognize and honor the indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land and vow to reconcile the deep wounds that still shape our world today.
And I'm Doug Stewart, also a worship associate here, and we have a lot of announcements this morning. Let's see, so we've got young adults meeting today after the service at noon. The women's group meets Tuesday at 6:30, and we'll discuss the question, what makes you spiritual? UU Ukes, our ukulele band, meets Wednesday at 6:30. The mindfulness group meets Thursday at 10. And the political policy group meets Friday at 6. Yes. Then our social justice ministry has quite 4 or 5 happenings over the next week or so for Martin Luther King Day and the women's activities. First of all, we're going to have a poster creation party for both of these events, the Women's March and Martin Luther King Day. Tomorrow, Parker Hall, 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. Loveland's Martin Luther King celebration is coming up this Thursday at the 16th at Mountain View High School, starting at 6 p.m. There's 2 women's and people's marches next Saturday on the 18th. Denver's starts at 10 and Fort Collins starts at 1 p.m. in Old Town Square. And finally, on Inauguration Day, which is a week from tomorrow, the Fort Collins Martin Luther King March is at 1 p.m. starting at Washington Park. And there's a flyer that I think Leo has put together in back with all that information about those social justice activities. And I think we're going to pass around a sign up for carpooling. Yes, is that, no? Oh. Yes, okay, so that's going to happen here. Next Sunday's service will celebrate Martin Luther King Day, and with stories that shape our lives, led by our minister, Reverend Dana, and with worship associate Debbie Gentry. And we'll also have music from Ryan and the choir next Sunday. Coffee hour as usual after the service today, and a big thanks to everyone involved in making this service happen. I have some opening words for us. Our worship theme for January is living love through the practice of story. And today we'll be talking about storytelling that heals. Our opening words are the poem The Day Unwritten by Dr. David Breeden of First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis. Welcome to a new story. Welcome to a day unwritten. We gather to speak of possibility. We remember the losses. We celebrate the victories. We embrace the possible over the probable, weaving a story of hope. Join us in the new story. Join us in the day unwritten. Join us in the future of possibility. And now please join me in saying our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now let's join in the spirit of love by greeting those around you for a minute.
Good morning.
Happy you're here. Just move that out of the way.
That was good. That was great. Thank you.
Feet are back out of the jersey.
This is my song. Please rise if you're willing and able.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my own, the country on earth. Here are my halls, my dreams, my holy shrine. Order of services, this is the time for all ages. That means I need kids to come up here and sit near me, please, however old they happen to be. Come on, Ocean. Okay. Great shoes. Someone is in here. I have a story. And I'm going to need you to, when I talk about porcupine, somebody has to hold this up, okay? Can somebody hold that up? And somebody, when I talk about jackrabbit, you have to hold that up. And I think that's a beaver.
Pass it around.
And you can hold that, but don't show it yet. That's the grand finale.
Yeah, no grand finale for anyone yet. Let's look at the water.
Okay. It would help if I got the book. Here it is. It's called Wild Wisdom. And it starts out, Wankantaka, the great creator of the Lakota Sioux, cared deeply for all the animal people. But as any creator does, he worried and fussed and had some sleepless nights, worrying about their well-being. What if an enemy attacks them, he thought seriously. They need to have survival tools to protect themselves. I should ask each animal what they prefer and give them what they need. So he surveyed, polled, interviewed, questioned, and quizzed each of the animals to see which survival equipment would best suit them. I can pounce and I have big paws, said the mountain lion. Does anybody have the mountain lion? How about you give me some really sharp claws? I'm a big guy, said the grizzly bear. Who has the grizzly bear?
Does anybody have a bear?
All right, grizzly bear will remain anonymous. I'm a big guy, said the grizzly bear. Why not give me the brawn and muscle to fight our enemy? That's a rabbit. Sharper teeth, said Wolf. He grinned, showing off his canines. I'm not Brownie, but I have sharp teeth, and I'm not much for fighting, said Coyote slightly. I like cleverness. Done, 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 said Wonka-Tonka, although he and all the animals and Lakota people would later wish he had not given Coyote so much cleverness. How about the beaver? Asked Wonka-Tonka.
We've got a beaver.
Where's the beaver? There he is. Okay. My flat tail is good for whacking someone, but I could use some webbed feet for diving beneath the water, Beaver said. Done, done, and done, agreed Wonka-Tonka. Porcupine chimed in. I'm a bit on the slow side. How about if my quills can be really sharp and stick in my enemy and be hard to pull out? Great idea, said Wonka-Tonka. Rabbit? Wonka-Tonka asked. Everybody seems to be my enemy, so I need to run as swiftly as possible, Rabbit said nervously. Can you put some spring in my hind legs so I can get up and go quickly? I think Ocean has Rabbit, right?
Ocean has rabbit. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Oh, wait. Where am I? Everybody seems to be my enemy, so I need to run. Okay, so Rabbit got fast legs. This is fun, said Wonka Tonka. Birds, clearly wings are for flying, floating, diving, and escaping. Plus, you have talons and sharp beaks. Is it okay with everyone? Wonka Tonka asked. Perfect, all the birds tweeted, chirped, peeped, hooted, and cawed. Mother Deer shyly approached the Creator with her newborn fawn close to her side. You have given me long legs and the ability to leap over obstacles, jump high, and run swiftly, so that is all ideal for me, she said. Great, Wonka Tonka said, pleased that it had worked out so well for Deer. But Wonka Tonka, my baby fawn here is utterly helpless against the teeth and claws and strength and cleverness of her many enemies. What can you do for her? Wonka Tonka surveyed the wobbly newborn fawn carefully. She's a tricky one, but I have an idea. And he mixed up some paint from the rocks and the plants and the sky and the trees and the flowers and the earth and the tall prairie grass and made some swatches and held them up to Fawn. Where is it? I lost my place. Oh. And then he said, oh, that one's too large, that one's too light, that one's too yellow, too much brown, needs more green. Wait, this is just right. And he took the just right shade and he rubbed it, and painted the newborn fawn's coat with spots. Now she blended in perfectly with everything around her. Show everybody, Ocean. Okay. So, Wonka Tonka said, when your mom is not with you, you must be absolutely still, and then no one will be able to see you. Fawn solemnly blinked her big brown eyes and shyly whispered, yes, sir. Oh, and wait, Wonka Tonka leaned over Fawn and drew a deep breath, completely removing her scent. Now no one will get a whiff of you either, he said, quite satisfied with his work. Now Fawn is safe if she stays completely still when her mom is away. And when she grows up, her perfectly blended spots will fade, and she will have the other survival tools of the deer people, the gift of swiftness and speed to outrun the enemy. And now that Wonka Tonka has given all his animal people the right survival equipment, he can finally get a good night's sleep. Phew. So now you can take your pictures or leave them and go to your class, and I bet there are people here that will sing you a song to make you, speed you on your way.
Let's make an arch. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. We wait to light our chalice until after the kids leave, just to make sure nothing untoward happens. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. We come together each week to share our lives and to care for one another. In keeping with our story theme, writer Timothy Couric said, "You are the main character in the story of your life, but other people are the main character of their own lives. And sometimes you can find healing just by playing a supporting role in someone else's experience." We play supporting roles in all of our experiences together. If you have a brief personal joy or sorrow that you would like to share, please come forward or raise your hand and I'll take the mic to you. Those of you online can share your comments in chat and we'll collect those afterwards. Let us respond to each sharing by saying, "We care for you. We care for you." Anybody like to start joys and sorrows for us?
Hi, I'm Norma. I think it's been maybe around 2 months ago, I got up here and said that I had heard that John Brubaker had passed. And I just learned the other day, John and Janet Brubaker were longtime members of Foothills and also former neighbors of mine. And Janet actually passed on the 3rd of January. So I just wanted to let people that know them know that. Thanks.
We care for you.
Hi, I'm Sue Matthews. I have two joys. One was last night, our wonderful Dana minister brought the Dances of Universal Peace here in this chapel. So if you feel the vibe still working in here, that was just amazing last night. So when it comes back again, I definitely encourage you all to join in. It's a little tricky to learn, but it's really worth it. It's a wonderful situation. My other joy is the fact that we have some social justice things coming up, and I got to just tell you, the handout is not correct. So please look at that carefully. The Martin Luther King celebration in Loveland is not the 18th, it's the 16th. And that's the nice warm one in Mountain View High School. Wear your t-shirts, please. And the People's March, if you are daring to go down in 8 degrees, go for it. On Saturday, the rest of us are going to go to Fort Collins on the 18th and the 20th for the People's March and the Martin Luther King March. And there's activities afterward that are really worthwhile things. The one in Martin Luther King thing at Lurie Student Center, it's called the Day of Service. They are calling it Hope Over Hate. And you can get a chance to help with getting the clothes that we have collected from all over for Homeward Alliance, for the homeless folks. So hope that those dates are correct. See me if you have any questions. Okay, thanks.
And we care for you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elaine, and I'd like to say how this is a joy. Grateful I am that yesterday Leonard Solkolowski provided us with this marvelous balance and
Posture.
Posture. Thank you, and posture. I hope it helps the memory too. Anyways, it was really great information, and we got to see things firsthand, and we got to practice, and yeah, it was really, really a great presentation. So we have a lot of good things going on here, but that was a real good one yesterday.
We care for you. Any others? Any online? We've got one, a couple, okay.
I don't know if you guys can hear me through this mic, but they can on Zoom. So Alice Kane has a joy and a sorrow. Her her sorrow is that she had a surprise appendectomy yesterday. But
So
her
Alice
joy,
Kane had an appendectomy yesterday.
yes, her joy is she's at home and feeling much better.
She's feeling better.
Yes.
So,
And then one more, Tam had a bad fall on Friday. And after a trip to the hospital, her ankle is in a splint, but not a cast. So it's sprained and not broken. So please call me Lucky from now on.
so that's Tam fell and broke her ankle, is that right? Sprained her ankle. And she wants to be called Lucky from now on. We care for you, thank you.
I'm Jennifer, and I just wanted to follow up with a comment that we were moving my father, my 99-year-old father, into our home. And we did that with difficulty on the day after Christmas. And so Dad is now living in what we call our apartment in the basement. He's adjusting really well. But Peter and I are trying to find our rhythm of continuing our lives, but making sure that he's supported. So we're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. So we're here today. He's 2 hours alone, and so that's a good thing.
We care for you. Yeah. Yes, please. Sure, go.
My partner put in that Milo had a really awesome play last night. It's called Ride the Cyclone. And there's one more performance this afternoon if anyone's interested. It's at Mountain View High School. It's kind of wacky, but it's really cool.
So Milo is in a play and it's going well, and there's one more session at Milo Fox. And that's this afternoon. What time?
I think it starts at 2.
Maybe at 2 at Mountain View. So cool. We care for you. So as a response to our joys and sorrows, those that have been said and those that remain in our hearts, and in particular for the California wildfires, let us sing this meditative hymn, Winds Be Still.
was growing up, I read a lot of stories that ended with the words, "and they lived happily ever after." And I believed them. I thought that was how things worked. Two people met, fell in love, married, and lived happily ever after. I missed the fine print, except when they don't. In my last year of college, I met a graduate student who seemed like a perfect lifetime partner. Both of us were studying journalism. Both of us believed that our writing could right society's wrongs, foil villains, empower the oppressed, perhaps even save the planet. We waited until mid-August to wed so I would be fully 22 and fully grown up. And for a while, things were pretty good. Oh, there were problems, but we tried to ignore them. We had 2 sons. My husband became a lobbyist. I edited the church newsletter. We wrote a script for a Thanksgiving service. I created the narrative. He selected the music. But the gap between us grew wider and wider. We found no common ground, and we were becoming cruel to each other. Much later, I discovered he was being cruel to one of our sons. Finally, I filed for divorce. I was terrified. There was no script, no narrative to follow. Cinderella didn't have to give up her home, find a job, get a smaller house in a new, more modest neighborhood, and try to help her kids, if not thrive, at least survive. None of us had any hope for happily ever after. And yet there was. I just had to change the story. So I did. I became a working mom employed by an international organization that, after I'd worked there 10 years, sent me on assignments to different countries. My kids fumbled through their own bleaknesses and discovered ways to create their own identities in the grown-up world. After I retired, I moved from Chicago to Colorado. After decades of writing for organizations or other people, I was determined to work on my own writing. And I did. I've now published 2 books and I'm working on a 3rd. And after having work assignments in different countries, I wanted to see more of the world. So I found ways to travel on my own. I have visited 22 countries and still swap Christmas cards from people on 3 different continents. They continue to expand my understanding of the global community. Beginning in 1991, I began learning about and from Native American cultures. And after a year of preparation, I was admitted to the Seneca Wolf Clan under the tutelage and leadership of Seneca elder grandmother Twyla Nitsch. She had married a German. That explains her last name. My learning of and from these people and my respect for their teaching continues. They, so much more than white privileged people of European descent, understand how to live in harmony with the rest of creation. Shortly after my divorce, I became an active member of a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Oak Park, Illinois. It was a solid, unmythical connection, one that I extended when I moved to Colorado. And I found a community right here in Namaqua, where I found new friends while maintaining connections with my friends in the Chicago area and one of my sons. And I continue to find new things to learn and explore. And I lost my place again. It's a tradition, a new tradition. One of these days, I'm going to get organized, perhaps. The point is, I'm here now, and I'm glad I'm here now, and that's as close as I'll ever come. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I was in there. I see you lose your place and just blow the hell out of it. Anyway, when I moved to Loveland, I was in a wonderful little bungalow that had a Norway maple in front and a Western redbud in the backyard. And also in the backyard, there were raspberries. If I'd known that, I would have paid more for the house. And the fence between them, the raspberries and the rest of the garden, was protected the beans behind the fence and the roses and dahlias in front. It was a great place to live. But I had made my living sitting down, writing. And I got weaker, and I was falling too much. So I was moved into an assisted living facility and acquired a walker. That could have been a pretty bleak, sad story of isolation. But it isn't the story I'm telling. I've made some friends there. And once a week, CCNO come and visit me. That's Clay, Cat, and Ocean. So, ta-da, how can anyone be glum with them around? And I've found ways to interact with some of the other residents. I actually had a conversation with one the other day. And anywhere you wind up, you can figure out a way to make it happy ever after. So go for it. I think that's all I had to say.
That's great. That's good. Thank you, ma'am. We have our offering now. Each week, you support the work of this congregation and all the ways we live our values in the world through your own generosity. In addition to supporting the church, half your donations support a local nonprofit organization, making a difference beyond our walls. During the 2 months of January and February, we are giving to Wellspring Health Access. Guided by their motto, your decision, your choice, Wellspring Access is deeply committed to providing compassionate, safe, and supportive reproductive care in a secure environment. Your contributions will help support their mission to create a safe haven for those seeking reproductive health care. Please be generous. We'll listen now to Ryan play Schumann's The Poet Speaks. Thank you, Ryan. I tend to think of my life as having chapters, as if chapters in a larger story. There was a chapter of being a kid, the chapter of my youth. Then there was one of going to college and failing, followed by a chapter on starting work, another of going back to college, finding a career, a family, and now the chapter I am creating in retirement. Mostly it's a pretty typical story, approaching stereotypical in our society's culture. Most of the time, I wasn't consciously aware of the story chapter I was living out. I just lived it as a character in a narration. The child, the youth, the college student. But at chapter breaks, that would change. When leaving one chapter and starting the next, the scene changed, the characters changed, and I needed to accommodate a new environment to find anew what life meant for me. A new narration. Let me zoom in on one of those chapter changes. It felt rough at the time, as if I had failed. It's a chapter that took some healing. The scene is senior year at the State University of New York at Albany. I'm majoring in physics, which I loved in the abstract, but was probably only carrying maybe a B average overall, and finding it not play, but hard work, even drudgery. Last semester, senior year, and I'm taking quantum physics, which is required for graduation, and I'm not getting it. It's conceptually difficult, and the math isn't much easier. I started failing tests and eventually flunked the final. I had to face I wasn't going to graduate. I'd hit a wall and my energy was sapped from hitting my head against that wall. Plus, as a separate tragedy, but at the same time, what had passed as my homegrown religion had seemed to unravel. It was a bleak time. And I couldn't blame anyone but myself. This wasn't an accident or something someone had done to me. I'd hit my own limits. I could no longer follow the college student story path forward. I needed to go a different direction. Now, as my wife will tell you, and I haven't told her I'm going to say this, she had to take quantum physics too as part of her engineering degree, and she is not shy about reminding me that she got a B. She's also quick to point out that the only way she got through was by joining a study group that pooled their meager college funds to hire a grad student to tutor them. She asked for and got help. She created a way to not go through a tough patch alone. It's incredible now that I look back on it, but the thought of asking for help never, ever even crossed my mind. That would have felt like admitting failure to me, like I couldn't do it by myself, inadequate, I suppose. Like if I couldn't do it all by myself, it must not be my path. Do you see the story I was caught up in? It fairly shouts of individualism, of the demand of pulling myself up by my own bootstraps, and maybe more than a little bit of manly hubris. The wonder is that the bubble hadn't popped sooner. Now, I suspect we all have chapters something like that, one of mine, in which we've found life has brought us to our limits, to a brick wall, to a dead end, either by our own doing or by outside imposition. We can all try stuff that's too hard for us, and life can be hard on us as well, handing out fate and even exploitation. For me, that chapter ending of flunking out of college tainted the many, many good times I'd had during my 4 years at Albany, like making friends and going backpacking in the Adirondacks. Narrative psychologists call such story chapters that are hard to look back on, that perhaps started out well enough but ended poorly, a story of contamination. The poor ending contaminates our memories of whatever good times there might have been in that chapter. The chapter feels toxic to us. But here's a couple thoughts about the chapters of our lives that might feel contaminated. First, however the contaminated chapter ends, it does end. And we pop out of it, perhaps more than a little rudely, but suddenly we don't take that last chapter's narrative as the way it has to be. I was no longer going to be a student or looking for a job with a college degree under my arm, but something else was going to happen. I awakened to a world that suddenly seemed fresh to me. Yes, I was disappointed in myself for my failure, and I had trepidation about what might be to come. But I also felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I'm not going that way. My vision had suddenly cleared. I had no idea of what was going to happen next. What would life be like without the college degree that I'd counted on? I'd be willing to haul garbage, I decided. I actually really thought that, and I realized I could get by. That settled me down. I felt bad about not being as smart as I thought I was, but what is. Everyone has limitations. I'd found one of mine. I still look back and wondered if I could have done something, maybe if I'd studied math harder, but that was all behind me now. And a new chapter was about to open before me, whatever it might contain. I felt much more aware. I'd popped out of the old narrative. I wasn't just a character in a story I'd taken on, but going forward, I was an active storyteller in creating the narration out of whatever, a new narration, out of whatever life offered. I was going to need to make choices, clear my own path, altering the direction of my life. That last chapter might have finished poorly at a dead end, but it wouldn't stop me. Poor chapter endings don't need to stop us. Here's another takeaway from that chapter that needed healing. The next chapter started with a pretty low bar, with me being willing to haul garbage for a living, if that's what it came to. The next chapter was likely to end better than that and be a chapter that narrative psychologists call a redemptive chapter. So a contaminated chapter can lead to a redemptive chapter. There is always hope, not just unfounded hope, but the hope that we can imagine what could happen, and a hope that does stay open to what is beyond what we can imagine. Love stays possible. So there is always hope. A final takeaway from that chapter that needed healing is this. Some of the tough chapters in our lives can be reframed. With some chapters, we can come to realize that what looked like a contaminated chapter or a poor ending actually had redemptive qualities. Now, not all chapters can be reframed from a contaminated chapter into a redemptive one, even by the most imaginative narrator. Some life tragedies are just tragedies that one wouldn't wish on anyone, least of all upon ourselves. It's enough to have survived those chapters, and we needn't take on any additional pressure to try to turn those tragedies into a good story. we can still give thanks that those unredeemable stories came to an end. Perhaps, too, they can give us deeper appreciation for what to avoid and what to cherish. Wiser, with the hope of better chapters to come. So there are chapters in our lives that can't be reformed, but some can. With me not just being a character in the story, but the narrator as well, I get to influence the storyline and its meaning. One power the story narrator has is in choosing where a chapter begins and where a chapter ends. That Albany State chapter I was talking about, if I move the ending from flunking out forward in time by 1 year, it would find me working in a very small two-person data processing business with an older cousin who was a CPA, churning out payrolls and general ledgers. To this day, he and I probably don't fully realize how much he helped me. There, I found computers interested me, more play than work. And I started to make plans to go back to school in that field. A redemptive chapter after all, if I rename that chapter as a learning chapter, with me going back to school and computers and enjoying it. With my cousin's help, I'd found a path that opened up for me. We do not dictate the winds that sweep our lives or how hard those winds blow. However, sometimes we can hoist a sail, and sometimes do that with the help of others. And then we can chart our own course, not into the wind, but not just be blown away by it either. Our own way. We are, after all, not just characters in the story we create together, but the meaning makers of our lives. Thank you. Let's rise and sing number 107, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
To close our service, I will read the words by Reverend Vanessa Southern of First UU Society of San Francisco. May the stories we tell name the largest truths of what was, of what is, and pull us forward to what should be, as stories were always been to. Amen.
Join us for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall, back of the sanctuary.